There are days when you wake up without understanding why your mind already feels heavy before the sun even rises. Nothing bad has happened, no one has hurt you, yet there is a voice in your head whispering enough to shake the whole day. It starts with a simple thought, like I am not good enough, and it spreads like a small crack running across a wall. You still go to work, you still smile, you still speak as if nothing is wrong, but deep down, you know you are tired in a way no one can see. Sometimes, a careless comment, an unanswered message, or a tiny mistake is enough to make your whole mind collapse. Not because the event is big, but because your thoughts make it bigger. You blame yourself, doubt yourself, and build an entire story that makes you anxious, sad, or ashamed. And if you have ever felt that you are fighting against your own mind, you are not alone. I have been there too. There were times when I believed that my mind was my enemy. I tried to push away negative thoughts, but the more I tried to forget, the stronger they came back. I thought I had to fix the whole world to feel peaceful, until I slowed down and realized the problem wasn't the world at all. It was the way I was speaking to myself. That was when I came to Stoic philosophy, not as a book to read, but as a way to breathe again. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The sentence sounds simple, but when you truly understand it, it changes everything. You do not need to change your whole life. You only need to change the way you look at what happens inside you. This video is for those who are tired of the kind of thinking that pulls them down every day. For those who want clarity instead of chaos, calmness instead of quick reactions, and intention instead of letting their minds drag them around. These 7 Stoic laws do more than soothe negative thoughts. They can actually reset the way your mind works. If these lines remind you of a moment when your own thoughts dragged you down, a heavy morning, a sleepless night, or a self-blaming whisper that kept you quiet all day, write that moment in the comments. You don't need to tell the whole story. Share the part that made you feel the weakest. Every time you write it down, you reset the foundation of your mind, and from that steady place, we will step into the first law, where you begin to understand the real source of the negative thoughts you once believed you could never change. Law 1. Understand the actual cause of negative thoughts. There are days when you do not understand why a single small thought can pull your whole mood down. A careless comment from someone can weigh heavily on your chest. A tiny mistake can make you think you are not worth anything. You say nothing, but inside, there is a tiring conversation between you and your own mind. And the most challenging part is the feeling that you do not know where it begins. You only realize it always returns at the moments when you are at your weakest. My mind once led me in the same way. I used to react to everything with old emotions and fears, even when nothing in the present was genuinely frightening. I used to let past criticism distort my self-perception. I used to believe that negative thoughts were part of my personality, something I couldn't change. Until one tranquil afternoon, when I finally sat down and asked myself a question I had avoided for years. What am I terrified of? The question did not make the fear disappear, but it allowed me to see what had been hidden in the deepest layer of my mind. Epictetus said that events do not make us suffer, rather, it is the way we interpret them that causes us to suffer. When I began to see each negative thought as a signal, I realized they came from obvious places. The feeling of being compared, expectations that were too heavy, old shame that had not healed, or simply exhaustion that I had not acknowledged. When the root appeared, the thoughts no longer had the power to control me as before. They were no longer darkness, they became messages. You can try something tiny. When your mind begins to spiral into a negative thought, please do not push it away. Ask slowly, where is it coming from? Then add another question, what part of me is being touched? Then ask again, why does this hurt me? Write these 3 questions down. When you look at them with clear eyes, you will see that what you fear is not the event, but the story you tell yourself about it. If this section prompts you to pause for a moment, you can leave a comment indicating that you are learning to look at the root. You only need to write, I am learning to look at the root. 1 sentence is enough for your mind to understand that you are no longer running from it, but truly returning to listen to yourself more clearly. And when you begin to see what lies behind negative thoughts, you will recognize something even more important. You do not always need to change the circumstances. Sometimes, you only need to change the way you look at them, and calmness will appear in places you once believed you could not reach. Law 2. See things in a way that helps you stay calm. There are moments when you react too strongly to something small. An unanswered message makes you uneasy. A minor mistake at work makes your heart race, as if you have caused something serious. You don't understand why something so small can touch you so profoundly. But in truth, what stresses you is not the event, but the way your mind interprets it. When you look at life through the fogged lens of fear, everything appears far more worrying than it really is. I used to interpret everything in the worst possible way. If someone did not smile, I thought I had done something wrong. If someone spoke briefly, I believed they were upset. If I failed once, I assumed I would fail forever. Everything went through a distorted lens that I did not realize I was carrying. One day, I reread a page from an old journal and noticed that I had reacted to the same situation in the same way for many years. That was when I realized that it was not life repeating itself. It was my perspective that had remained unchanged. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that events do not harm the mind, but rather the stories we attach to them. When you change the story, everything else falls into place. Not receiving a reply does not mean someone is tired of you. One exhausting day does not mean you are failing. A direct comment does not mean you lack value. When you stop long enough to ask, is there a calmer way to see this? You open another door for yourself. A door that is lighter, clearer, and not pulled down by the past. You can try this whenever your mind begins to spiral. Instead of thinking they are judging me, try to think they might be busy. Instead of I messed up again, try I am learning. Instead of nobody needs me, try today is a hard day. I will breathe more slowly. These simple sentences do not deny reality. They choose a way of seeing that brings you back to the calmness you were meant to have. If this section makes you feel lighter, please leave a comment saying that you are learning to see things more calmly. You can write, I am learning to see everything more calmly. 1 sentence is enough to remind your mind that you are choosing clarity instead of the blind reactions that have exhausted you for so long. And once you know how to shift your perspective to stay calm, you will realize something else. Not every perspective needs to change. Some things are best kept out of your mind from the very beginning. From here, we take another step forward, into the place where you learn to protect your mind from what disturbs it before it even reaches the calm inside you. Law 3. Protect your mind from what destabilizes you. There are days when you wake up and your head already feels heavy. No one has said anything, nothing has happened, yet your mind is full of noise. A negative comment, a chaotic news headline, or an unreadable expression is enough to send you spinning all day. Your mind is tired not because the world is too loud, but because you let everything walk straight inside without a single door to filter it. Peace does not disappear in an instant. It is worn down little by things you do not control but still allow to enter. I was once someone who left the door of my mind open too easily. A careless comment could stay with me for a week. A work message in the middle of the night instantly became a weight in my chest. There were mornings when I had not even taken a breath before reading a stream of news that tangled my thoughts. Only when I realized I could no longer live with a mind like a room that anyone could enter did I begin to choose differently. Protecting the mind is not about building walls to hide from life. It is about choosing carefully what deserves to stay inside. Stoicism teaches a straightforward principle. What enters your mind will shape your life. The things you read, the people you stay around, the words you hear, the emotions you absorb, all of them are seeds. Seneca once reminded us to choose those who lift you and to lift them in return. That does not only refer to people, but also to the energy you allow near you. When you understand that your mind is a place that needs protection, you begin to ask, does this make me lighter or heavier? If it is heavier, let it stay outside the door. The simplest practice is to choose your inputs each day. Spend less time on social media in the morning, reduce contact with people who exhaust you, and read less of what only makes your heart race. You do not need to close the door to the world. You only need to open it selectively. Practice saying no to unnecessary conversations. Practice walking away when you feel your energy draining. Practice giving yourself a quiet space each day so your mind can wash away the noise. If this section resonates with you, leave a line in the comments saying you are learning to protect your mind each day. You can write, I am learning to defend my mind each day. Just one short sentence is enough to remind you that your peace also needs guarding like something precious. And once you know how to keep your mind from being pulled into chaos, the next step becomes clearer. Because there are things that will still hurt you, no matter how well you protect yourself, if you insist on holding on to them. From here, we delve deeper into what the Stoics considered one of the greatest freedoms, learning to let go of what is not within your control, so that your mind is no longer dragged around by what you cannot change. Law 4. Let go of what is not within your control. There are moments when you feel exhausted, not because you are doing too much, but because you are trying to hold on to too many things that were never yours to carry. You try to guess what others are thinking, try to save a relationship that loosened long ago, try to force an outcome to go precisely the way you want, try to control things life has never given you the authority to decide. And in all those efforts, your mind is stretched so tightly that it can no longer breathe. You are not tired because you are weak. You are exhausted because you are fighting on a battlefield where you have no weapons at all. I was once the same, always thinking that if I tried a little harder, said one more sentence, explained one more time, proved one more point, then everything would eventually change. But the more I tried, the deeper I was pulled into a bottomless spiral, until I understood something Stoicism had spoken of for thousands of years. Some things hurt you more the longer you hold on to them. And letting go is not failure. It is returning a burden you were never meant to carry. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." When this truly sinks into you, you feel the first sense of relief. You do not need to chase anyone's expectations. You do not need to reshape yourself to fit the uncertainty of others. You do not need to control anyone's gaze, emotion, or decision. You only need to return to what has always belonged to you, the way you think, respond, and move forward. The most straightforward and most powerful practice is to pause whenever your mind tries to control something. Ask gently, "Is this in my hands?" If the answer is no, record it. When someone becomes distant, let them be responsible for the space they create. When a plan does not go your way, accept that you control effort, not outcome. Letting go does not make you smaller, it makes you clearer, lighter, and freer. If this section is speaking directly to you, leave a line in the comments saying you are learning to release what does not belong to you. You can write, "I am learning to let go of what is outside my control." One short sentence is enough to remind your mind that you are choosing freedom instead of carrying weights that were never yours. And once you know how to return what is not yours to hold, you will see another truth more clearly. Pain is not only meant to bring you down, it can become a strength if you know how to face it and transform it. In the next law, we go into a deeper part of the journey, where you learn to turn difficulty into your own power, so that every wound stops being a chain that holds you back and becomes the stone that helps you stand stronger. Law 5. Turn hardship into your own strength. There are seasons when you feel yourself growing weaker, not because you are not capable, but because too many things arrive all at once. Loss, disappointment, words that cut deeper than they should, a door closing at the exact moment you needed it to stay open. You are not only facing the event itself, but also the feeling that something inside you is bending or breaking. And at times, you wonder whether you are slowly becoming a worse version of yourself because of the things you never wished for. I once believed that strength came from avoiding pain, maintaining stability, and avoiding mistakes and failure. But life never gave me the kind of stability I thought I could hold. Instead, it gave me collisions, the falls, the rejections, the moments that forced me to look at myself for a very long time. And only when I sat through nights where it felt like I had nothing left to lean on, did I finally understand what Stoicism had been whispering for generations. Hardship does not break you, it shapes you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." When I first read this, I thought it was only philosophy. But after hitting the bottom and climbing back up more times than I wanted to admit, I realized it was a law of life. Every time you hurt, you learn something about yourself. Every time you are wounded, you see a weakness that needs healing. Every time something collapses, you begin building again, this time steadier, calmer, and more aware. Practicing the art of turning hardship into strength is not about forcing yourself to be positive or pretending everything is fine. It's about embracing the challenges that life presents and finding the strength within. It is sitting down and asking, what is this teaching me? What wound is this touching in me? Who will I become after this? When you pause long enough to understand each crack instead of running from it, you turn it into the stone you can stand on. The pain does not disappear immediately, but it changes form. From a burden, it becomes a small flame inside you. If this section makes your heart settle even a little, write a line in the comments saying you are learning to transform hardship into your own strength. You can write, "I am learning to turn hardship into strength." One sentence is enough to remind yourself that every slow step is still a step upward. And once you know how to rise from the very things that once drained you, you will see another truth. Real strength is not always found in action. Sometimes it lives in silence, in the place where you know how to hold your energy. Choose silence instead of reacting, and protect your inner authority instead of letting the world pull you around. In the next law, we step into that space where you learn to use silence to preserve your energy and your self-command, so you grow not only stronger, but steadier, and deeper from within. Law 6. Use silence to preserve your energy and your self-command. There are moments when you react too quickly, simply because your mind is full of noise. A harsh comment makes you snap back immediately. A misunderstanding makes you want to explain everything at once. A wave of insecurity rises, and you try to speak it out to feel lighter, but afterward, you only feel more drained. We often think silence is weakness, but in truth, most of your exhaustion comes from speaking too much, explaining too much, trying to prove too much, and letting your mind break into pieces for no reason. It took me many years to grasp this concept. In the past, whenever I was misunderstood, I would jump in to explain. Whenever I was triggered, I responded with emotion. Whenever someone acted distant, I searched for the reason in myself. And in doing so, I found myself in countless conversations that didn't need to happen, conversations that I later realized only took my energy, my calm, and my clarity. It was not until the day I tried staying silent at the right moment that I realized silence does not take anything from you. It simply returns what you have been missing for a long time: your self-command. Stoicism sees silence as a form of inner discipline. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, "If it does not make you better, do not let it take space in your mind." Silence does not mean suppression. It means choosing the right moment and choosing what deserves to be said. Choosing to keep your energy when your emotions are not clear, when your thoughts are not steady, when your words do not represent the person you want to become. Silence is refusing to let the world pull you into reacting on its terms and standing still long enough to hear yourself. This practice begins with small steps. When you feel triggered, pause for one beat before responding. When someone tries to pull you into an argument, look at the feeling in your chest before you speak. When you feel the urge to explain just to be understood, ask whether it is truly necessary. Every time you choose silence at the right moment, you are not losing, you are keeping a piece of your strength. And inner strength always begins with conserving your mental energy. If this section helps you recognize something about yourself, leave a line in the comments saying, "You are learning to hold silence to preserve your energy." You can write that I am learning to use silence to conserve my energy. One sentence is enough to remind yourself that stillness is a form of strength no one can take from you. And once you begin to stay silent at the right moments, you will see something more profound. Most of the pain you carry does not come from the event itself, but from the story you tell about yourself afterward. In the next law, we enter the most crucial place, where you learn to change the story you know about yourself, so you no longer live under the old definitions that make you smaller, but step into a version of yourself that is wider, clearer, and truer. Law 7. Change the story you tell about yourself. There are days when you feel yourself falling apart, not because something big happened, but because of the sentences you repeat to yourself in silence. I am not good enough. I always ruin things. I do not deserve anything. These sentences are not the truth, but because you have heard them for so long, they begin to cast a shadow over every choice, every effort, every step you take. And then you start living as if you are limited by those whispers, even though no one has ever forced you to believe them. I remember sitting through long nights, not because something terrible had happened, but because one sentence kept repeating in my mind until it strangled me. Maybe I will never make it. That sentence did not appear out of nowhere. It was built from old failures, from something someone said years ago, from moments when I blamed myself far more harshly than I needed to. But one day, I looked back at all of it and saw something obvious. Life was not defeating me. It was the story I told about myself that held me down. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." When I read that again, I understood that if I kept telling myself things that made me smaller, I would end up living exactly that way. But if I changed the way I spoke to myself, I would change the way I lived. So I started rewriting every small story about who I was. Not that I failed, but I am learning. I am not good enough, but I am becoming better. I don't always make mistakes, but I am understanding myself more through each error. This practice does not require you to believe something grand about yourself immediately. It only asks you to replace the familiar sentence in your mind with one that makes you feel lighter. When you hear yourself blaming yourself, shift it to "I am learning." When you feel fear, move it to "I am preparing." When you feel yourself stepping back, shift it to "I am adjusting my direction." Every sentence you change transforms a small part of who you are. And little by little, your mind will no longer be colored by fear, but by growth. If this section makes you recognize something in the story you are living, leave a line in the comments saying you are learning to rewrite your own story. You can write, "I am learning to rewrite my story." One simple sentence is enough to remind you that you are no longer required to live according to old pages. And once you have reached this point, you have finished all 7 laws, 7 small steps, guiding you back to a mind that is clearer, steadier, and calmer. In the summary that follows, we will retrace the entire journey, from the moment you confronted your negative thoughts to the moment you rewrote your story. And I will bring you back to the spirit of the opening lines, so you can see that what you have been searching for is not far away at all. It is being formed in the quiet moments you have just walked through. The journey back to a clearer mind. When you look back at the 7 laws you have just walked through, you will see they do not stand alone. They connect into a slow and steady journey, like layers of earth quietly building within you. From the moment you dared to face the root of your negative thoughts, to the moment you chose a calmer way of seeing things. From learning to protect your mind from what destabilizes it, to the moment you release what was never within your control. Then you learned to turn hardship into strength, to use silence to guard your energy, and finally to rewrite the story that has been shaping your life. None of these makes you someone who no longer hurts, no longer fears, or never wavers. They help you realize that you are not as fragile as you once believed, that somewhere deep inside there is a source of strength waiting for you to reach it. Stoicism does not teach you to become steel. It teaches you to stand steady even when you carry cracks within. And that steadiness is what makes you different from the version of yourself you once thought you were. I have also walked through seasons like this. There were long nights when I thought I had reached the bottom, but I was really standing at the edge of a new version of myself. What helped me continue was not strength, but truth. I do not need to conquer the world. I only need to not lose to myself. And each time I returned to my breath, to my calm, to a clearer look within, my mind brightened a little more. If you have reached this point, know that you have already changed, not because these words have magic, but because you dared to look directly at yourself. That is the step many people avoid for a lifetime. And if this journey has made your heart grow quiet in any way, leave a comment saying you are choosing to live with more calm, clarity, and inner authority each day. You can write, "I prefer calm before the world begins." One short sentence, but it is your way of coming back to yourself. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to Sovereign Stoic so we can build a place for stillness and inner strength together. A place you can return to whenever your mind feels overwhelmed. And if you know someone carrying silent fatigue, someone who does not say it, but you know they are holding too much inside, share this video with them. Sometimes, a single moment at the right time is enough to help someone feel they do not have to stand alone in the dark. Thank you for being here. Peace has never lived out there. It has always begun with you.